The Top Floor Please podcast, where women in leadership rise together. I'm your host, Melissa McCormick, executive coach and founder of the Grace and Salt Leadership Academy. This is your space to find clarity, grow in confidence, and lead with bold authenticity. Whether you're navigating the boardroom, building your team, or stepping into new territory, you're not alone. Let's talk real challenges, real growth, and real leadership because the top floor isn't just a place, it's a mindset. Alrighty then, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to the top floor. This is Melissa McCormick. I am your host, and I'm so excited for you to be here. Today, we're going to be talking all about goals, goals that actually matter. We're going to be moving from activity to impact. Many times we get a little frustrated with our organizations because it's January. Now we need to set our goals for 2026 that align with our overall goals. And sometimes our organizations put tons, you need a goal in 7 different competencies, plus you need these goals, and then we need these goals. There's a ton of goals. So today we're going to be talking about goals in general, but also how to filter them. How do we make goals that actually matter? Now, I am a proponent of SMART goals, so we're not going to be talking about SMART goals. If you're not familiar with SMART goals, Google it. You'll be able to find it. I probably have a podcast regarding SMART goals as well, but we're not going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about just the truth about goals and how can we filter through those. So we looked at January. So this podcast is dropping the 3rd week in January. We've talked about performance reviews. Now we're going to be talking about goals, and it's really important that we do, and primarily because January typically is that month of goals, right? That's when we set our resolutions, which I call commitments. We got new plans, new intentions, new motivation. It's like a new semester at school. Over Christmas break, I cleaned my office because I feel like, yes, it felt good walking in here. Things were organized, right? I do need to go through my files from the last couple of years. I used to do that when I worked in corporate. It was the time where I'd go through my paper files, right? I should be going through my digital files as well, but I do have some paper files that, I'll get to. But anyway, January is that month of goals, that month that we are renewing, that month where it's yes, we feel really good and energized. We're in the middle of winter, at least in the Midwest, but it's almost over. But then by February, many leaders feel overwhelmed. They feel behind, they'll feel frustrated because we start with that goal, and typically it's you're putting together your 12-month goals and you started in month 1. Okay, great, but it still can be somewhat overwhelming. So when we get to February, we could be, right? And it's not because we lack discipline at all. It's because we're chasing activity instead of impact. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So here's the truth. The truth is most high performers don't like to admit this. Okay. Okay. Are you ready for this one? Being busy feels productive. Yeah. Being busy feels productive. Come on. I know who you are. You're like me, where, you've got your to-do list. And if you forgot to put something on your to-do list, you just add it there so you can cross it off. It feels good. Being busy feels productive. Now, the higher you get in organizations, the less busy you are because the more strategic thinking you're doing. And it's very difficult, especially with small business owners, when they start really thinking like a CEO. It's hard for them when they've hired the team and everybody, they're used to doing all the things. So when they hire the team, then it's like, what am I supposed to do? Right? Not recognizing that strategic thinking is so important. Now, if you are an individual contributor at whatever level of the organization and you can figure out how to strategically think for your boss, you just become that much more valuable. And we'll talk about that another time. But We do like that feeling of having all the answers, especially women. Women really do this, especially women in an office setting where they like to be, maybe they get to they started in the entry level and they get up to mid management and they end up being the person that knows how to fix the copy machine, or somebody wants to know who do they should talk to in production, or there's a call that comes into the switchboard, nobody knows how to answer. This person knows all of that, right? We like being busy. We like feeling like we're helping others. We like solving problems. Is that you? Yeah. Is that you? But I want you to think about this. High performing leaders are especially vulnerable to this. They're capable. Yep. They're reliable. Yep. They get things done. Is that you? Right? Are you that person, that high performer that everybody relies on? Because they know you can do it. They trust you, right? You're capable. You're reliable. You can get things done. And even if you don't know how to do it, you're going to figure it out, or you know who can get it done. So because of those three things, they say yes. And then they say yes again. And before long, their calendar is full, but their leadership is diluted, right? Is that you? You look at your calendar and you're like, holy smokes, I've got 4 meetings today. How did that happen? Well, this is what I do when I'm helping clients. It's like, take a look at your calendar. Do you have to be involved with every one of those things? Let's go back to the CEO who grew up in the organization. Let's go back to that person. And they don't know how to say, I'm not going to that meeting. They get invited and they feel like they have to accept it. Because after all, the team needs my help. Yeah, they might. They might need your help. Or maybe we should focus on delegation. Maybe we should focus on empowerment. Maybe we should have those conversations so that you can focus on doing CEO stuff, right? The real problem with goals is not goal setting, it's goal filtering. This is a new term that I'm coining here today. It's not about goal setting, it's about goal filtering. If everything is a priority, then nothing is strategic, right? Years ago, I became like I bought the Franklin Covey time management system. So it came with the journal, the paper journal, and then there was videos. I went to a class and we talked about A priorities, B priorities, C priorities, and then you had A1, A2, A3, and you had to finish your A1s before you could get to your Bs, and then you carried those over to the next day, your Bs and your Cs if you didn't get them done. Okay, it was a fabulous concept, right? It worked really, really well. But I didn't filter any of those, right? I said yes to all these things, and then you end up having a lot of C's, and you're like, but I'm not getting them done. So then I'm feeling overwhelmed and pressured, even though if I'm not getting them done and nobody's saying anything about it, then do I even have to do it? I had a boss years ago who said, Melissa, just stop doing a report. Like if that report takes you forever, stop doing it and see who asks for it. If they ask for it, okay, then it's needed. But if they don't ask for it, you don't need to do it. Goal filtering. Goals should feel like focus, not pressure. They should help you decide what not to do. Okay, now, and I talk about this. I talk about this quite often with how to manage everything that's on your plate, what you should do and what you should not do, and making sure that when you're delegating, what is it that is in your wheelhouse? What is it somebody else should do? And then what is it that we should just not do altogether as an organization? Okay, so I just want to stop here for a second. I want you to think about this. If you wrote down your top 5 goals today, in fact, do that, right? Just write down your top 5 goals. Which one actually requires you as the leader? Okay. And which ones could succeed without you? Yeah, good question, right? So instead of asking, what do I want to accomplish this year? I want you to ask this. What deserves my leadership? Not my involvement, not my attention, my leadership. Because leadership isn't about doing more, it's about directing energy where it matters most. So, most of our direct reports or our team members, they can do the job. What they struggle with is prioritization. They need to be sure that they're aligned with you, and you need to be sure they're aligned with you so that everybody's rowing in the same direction. What deserves my leadership? Not my involvement, not just to be present in the meeting so that it looks like you're supporting the team. No, no. What deserves my leadership? When evaluating a goal, I want you to ask yourself this. This is a very simple pressure test. Does this align with where the organization is going? Does this require my leadership or could it be delegated? Will this matter 6 months from now? If the answer is no, pause before committing. Right? I mean, there's other things that you need to take into account when you're committing to something. Who asked? What is the thought behind it? All of those things, right? But just pause and think through it. And then talk through it with the person that's asking you. Does this really make sense? Is it aligned with where our organization is going, first and foremost? Does it require my leadership or can I delegate it to somebody else? And by the way, it's okay if your boss comes to you and says, "Hey, could you get this done?" It's okay for you to say, "Do you want me specifically to do it? Or is it okay if I ask so and so to do it?" Right? They're probably going to say, "Yeah, I don't care. Just get it done." Right? Yeah. And will this matter 6 months from now? Yeah, how you feeling right now? I just got 3 tips to help you filter goals, not just set them. Okay. So the first one is I want you to filter for leadership, not capability. We know you can do it. We know you can do it. Should you do it? Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. And if somebody else can't do it, like it's somebody so and so, like maybe Jane in your office, she has the capability to do it. She's just never done it before. Then work on a delegation plan, right? I have a podcast on delegation. Check it out. Contact us at Grace and Salt Leadership Academy. I can come in and train on delegation and help your leaders learn how to delegate effectively so that it sticks. All right, because there's an art to it for sure. High performing leaders often take on goals because they're competent, because they're dependable, and because they're trusted. But capability is not a leadership strategy. So if you ask yourself this question, this is like the year of questions because these podcast series has been all kinds of questions, all kinds of self-assessment. I love it. Here's the question. Does this goal require my leadership or just my involvement? And if it requires your involvement, if somebody else can own it with clarity and support, it doesn't need to be on your list. Do you still hold that other person accountable? Sure, of course you do, but you don't have to go to the meetings. If you want to be sure that you know what's going on, then have that person send you an update once a week or once a month or whatever the cadence that makes sense is. Okay, so that's number one. Filter for leadership, not capability. Number two is filter for impact over activity. Ooh, this is a good one. Busy goals feel productive. We talked about that earlier, but they often don't move the needle. They make you feel you get home and you're like, whew, it was a really productive day today. Yeah, I'm loving that. But if you really sat down and looked at what you did it move the needle towards the organizational goals? That's a good question. A good goal creates momentum. A great goal creates leverage. So here's another question. If this goal succeeds, what actually changes? If the answer is, I'll be busier or I'll feel caught up, it's probably activity based and not impact driven. The final filter I have for you today is filter for alignment with this season. So not every good goal belongs in this season. Leadership maturity is knowing when to say not now. So you don't necessarily say no, but not now. Like if it's regarding I don't know. Last year I was launching my podcast in June. I launched this podcast in June. We started working on it. We've been talking about it for 6 months, but we didn't really focus on it until April, right? So it was not now, but it really was important for our organizational goals. So I want you to ask yourself this with the third filter. Does this goal align with where I am and where the organization is right now? Goals that fight your season energy drain, right? They drain your energy because they're a different season. Like you need to put it on a sticky note and put it someplace else. Goals that are aligned with your season create clarity and confidence. Goals that fight your season drain your energy. Okay, so I'm going to go back to those three filters here. I just want to take a look at my notes. So the first filter question I want you to ask yourself is, does this goal require my leadership or just my involvement? The second question is, if this goal succeeds, what actually changes? And third, does this goal align with where I am and where the organization is right now? Okay, those are the three filters. That's going to help you understand um, goals for impact versus goals for activity. Okay, makes sense? Yeah. So, because progress here's the deal, progress doesn't come from motion, it comes from intention. And the most effective leaders choose fewer goals with greater clarity. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out on the top floor. If today's episode gave you something to think about, please share it with your group. And please, I do this because I want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and which you can find this podcast on Spotify or on YouTube. And if you are ready to rise, you want some clarity, you want to lead with clarity and confidence, we'd love to connect with you. Reach out to graceandsaltleadership.com and learn how Grace and Salt can support your leadership journey. I want you to remember this. You do not have to lead like everyone else. Just lead like you. All right, everyone, I will see you next time. Thanks so much for hanging out on the top floor. If today's episode gave you something to think about or a little boost, share it with your friends to keep the momentum going. And hey, if you're ready to rise, find your voice, and lead with clarity and confidence, we'd love to connect with you. Reach out at graceandsaltleadership.com to learn how Grace and Salt can support your growth. Remember, you don't have to lead like everyone else. Just lead like you. All right, I'll see you next time on the top floor.